So first off, we're going to talk about the players that the Rockets have lost this offseason, and that list includes Trevor Ariza, Luc Richard Mbamute, Chinanu Onuaku, Ryan Anderson, and DeAnthony Melton. I'm going to open up to you guys. We'll start with Trevor Ariza. What do you guys think his departure means for the Houston Rockets?
Well, let me tell you something. Trevor Ariza, we're gonna miss his toughness. That's for sure. His toughness was a big part of the Rockets and their identity last year. Big part of the defensive end, obviously.
Yeah, Trevor Ariza really helped us out last year, and everyone's been talking about him leaving and how that's going to affect our team, especially at the defensive floor. You know, he was really that kind of 3-and-D type player. Was almost a league leader in steals in the past, averaging about 1.5 for his career, and also he really brought about 12 points to our team, which I think with the additions we picked up, which we'll talk about a little more later, are going to impact and I think can actually elevate our scoring on an offensive level with like Carmelo Anthony and the new pieces we have added. So
defensive toughness, we're gonna miss that. He was sort of like another Patrick Beverley on our team, which we lost. But then again, we still have Chris Paul for that. He sort of has that dog mentality. But I think we're definitely gonna miss that from Trevor Ariza. But James Ennis coming in. That, I think, could be a very good replacement for Trevor Ariza. A guy who's underrated on the defensive side, is more athletic, is younger. I think has the upside of improving his three-point shot. Because we remember when Trevor Ariza first came to this league, he was not a three-point shooter at all. He was a defender and actually he was ridiculously athletic when he was with the Lakers. So I have a lot of high hopes for James Ennis. I'll miss Ariza. I will. I won't. I mean, I'm not going to lie. But I think the Rockets are going to be just fine, to be honest with you. And we got Carmelo Anthony coming in, who's a better offensive weapon, a better offensive threat, better shooter, honestly. When he gets those open looks, I'm telling you, when Carmelo starts off the season, we're going to see Olympic Melo. I'm predicting it. I think it's going to happen because we're going to get great penetration for. Why are you guys laughing? God, what?
It's okay. Well, we'll get to Melo. We'll obviously get to Melo a little bit later in the show.
Tell me why you're laughing.
We'll obviously get to him later.
Do you just want me to talk about Trevor Ariza?
No. It's not just Ariza. You can go off people that we lost. I mean, we all know you're the Melo fan, and we're gonna let you just talk about him later. We're gonna let you talk about him later.
Well, listen, Trevor Ariza, we lost him. We lost his dog mentality. I mean, because he's actually a really feared player in the league. You don't want to fuck with Trevor Ariza. Sorry.
From an offensive standpoint, I think we'll be all right, especially shooting the ball in the Mike D'Antoni system with the shooters we have creating what he was able to do on the offensive end. I think we'll be able to replicate pretty well. But from the defensive standpoint, he really brought a toughness and leadership. But, we still have PJ Tucker there. That's going to really impact the defensive floor in our starting unit.
I think the thing that people haven't talked about is the fact that, he was one of the only players on the team that has won a championship, right?
And so I think we'll be okay, but obviously it means a lot. But I think it's been a little overblown how much him leaving is going to affect our team. Everyone's talking about how that was really bad for offseason, him leaving more money. But the reality was there's no way we were going to be able to pay him $15 million for a 1-year deal with the Phoenix Suns. And I've already seen reports stating how there might be a buyout with him in Phoenix this year, and he could very well be coming and trying to sign back here if things don't go so well, which with that, he's going to take on that leadership role with that young team in Phoenix. But Phoenix is probably still going to be a couple of years out from being relevant, so he may want to come back and have that championship competitive edge that he has had, although he has already won a ring back in the Lakers a few years ago, so maybe he just wants to get some more money, which I respect his decision, whatever he wants to do, because he was a free agent, so he has the right to make that decision. But from the Houston Rockets standpoint, I think we'll be all right still, especially on the offensive end. We'll be able to fulfill his type of role with the shooting and his points averaging. But the defensive end, we'll see. I think we'll lack a little bit, but we'll be all right.
I like that. How do you guys think that Mute's exit affects any of that?
Well, listen, Mute was injured. I mean, what did he injured, dislocated, what? It was both of his shoulders? Was it both shoulders? I can't remember.
I thought it was the same shoulder.
Was it the same shoulder twice? Okay, it was the same shoulder twice. Listen, he was injured most of the playoffs. He was basically a non-factor. I like Mute. I mean, he was basically our glue guy last year throughout the whole season. But honestly, I mean, we played great without him.
Yeah, Luka Bonamute's exit is going to impact the Rockets to a certain standpoint. Really, we thought he was going to be able to impact us better towards off in the playoffs last year, but unfortunately, he did get injured against the Lakers last year with a shoulder injury, and he kind of popped his shoulder out in places, dislocated it, and never really seemed to be the same.
I mean, he's a good defender. He can switch on to a lot of people. He's a really good switch defender. But then once again, he's one of those guys that can be replaced.
Ever since he came back, he still was able to help us out in certain game situations, but we were looking for some more offensive impact last year, especially in the playoffs. So with the new additions we have, he was able to go back to the Clippers, came from the Clippers because he was great friends with Chris Paul. And so, yeah, Luka Bonamute's exit hurts a little bit, but like I said with Trevor Ariza, I think it's been a little overblown from those. These are the two main key losses we had this season, but from an actual standpoint of impacting the offense and impacting our overall playing in the team and defense, I think it was pretty minimal. And with the pieces we added, we'll definitely be all right.
I mean, Morey, here's the thing about Morey, and this is what I love about him. He makes signings that no one thinks are going to be good at all. At all. When that Luka Mbamute signing was completely out of left field, and people were like, what is this? Luka Mbamute? Are you kidding me? And he did great throughout the season. So, I mean, I think James Ennis is going to be that. I think we'll see with Michael Carter-Williams. But I think Morey is just really smart at finding those diamond in the rough players.
So what do you think about Anderson and Melton going to the Phoenix Suns in exchange for Knight and Chris? Primarily, how has Ryan Anderson's departure from the team going to free up offense and defense for the Rockets?
Okay, Ryan Anderson leaving, he did help us out a lot with spreading the offense and spreading the floor with Mike D'Antoni's system and having ball penetrators like Harden and Chris Paul attacking and be able to have the most space to operate that they want and can use, and then kicking it out to shooters like Ryan Anderson, who from the power forward position really did make a difference. And really when he spread the floor, he was a great shooter in that position and really drew out the defender to allow people like Harden and Chris Paul to get into the paint, get in the paint easier and free that up for everybody else. So Ryan Anderson really impacted and helped us out from that standpoint, but we all know he's been criticized for his defensive efforts and his hustle and ability and quickness through aging and just his athletic abilities in general. And so with a guy like PJ Tucker coming in and replacing him from the starting role last season, we saw the kind of impact that helped our team defensively, and that's when we started going on like a crazy streak. I remember we were like 17-1 with PJ Tucker in the starting lineup last season to start out, and it really we could have still used him a lot in our bench and in that sort of bench rotation, but we're talking about a guy, Ryan Anderson, who's averaged 12 points over his career and really, can be a starter in other places, and we'll see in Phoenix with that trade. The main thing was we were just trying to free up that kind of contract space, and that's what it was about in that trade in the end.
This is just getting this Ryan Anderson contract off the books was honestly like one of the best things Morey has ever done, honestly. Like, no one thought we can get him off this team at all. I'm telling you. So, I think it frees up a lot of mobility for the Rockets going forward, whether that be at the trade deadline or when buyouts start happening. So,
yeah, I completely agree. And I think also just his lack of mobility, I think hurt the Rockets a lot. Especially, I think if you look at 16-17 Rockets versus 17-18 Rockets, I think the offense is so much more mobile, right? Which is essentially what helped them get closer to defeating Golden State, right? Is the fact that they were able to be more mobile, more versatile, and had more multi-positional players, right? And I think just out of that, Ryan Anderson fell out of the rotation because he couldn't. Besides power forward, we played him at center at the playoffs against the Spurs 2 years ago, right? But that's essentially the only other position he can play is center, and might even make an argument that that's his best position yet to play because of how his lack of speed doesn't quite affect him as much as it does at the power forward position if you play him at the center position.
Getting him off the books was a priority, and I didn't think it was going to happen, but it happened. And we got another kind of bad contract with Brandon Knight in 5 years, $70 million. But we also got a guy, Marquise Chris, who's young. Couldn't really flourish with the Suns because I think the level of talent and maybe the leadership issue there.
But we did get some good pieces with Marcus Chris and Brandon Knight, which Brandon Knight was a great addition. I can't wait to get into that a little bit later. But Ryan Anderson, we'll be able to be all right. And we've already seen how we moved on with that with PJ Tucker coming in. So we are going to miss a shooting, but without him, we'll be okay.
Absolutely, and not even just that, but also I think the big man perspective. Yeah, we got a lot better, younger, more mobile depth. But if you also look at the guard position, you add Marco Carter Williams, you add Brandon Wright. You've got players that now can like let Harden and Chris Paul take a break. And there were reports the other week that Chris Paul is going to rest more during the season, all of that. But I think from last year, the biggest thing we were missing was a fourth and fifth guard that could really play multiple double-digit minutes on a consistent basis, and now we have that.
Here's the thing that I'm worried about, though, that I think will nip us in the butt eventually, is the DeAnthony Melton loss. I really like DeAnthony Melton in the summer league. I mean, if you guys watched him play, that kid can straight out ball. He can, and so I think I'm just really hoping. I mean, I'm wishing DeAnthony Melton the best of luck, but I'm really hoping he doesn't turn into like some kind of star player because I'm telling you, that kid is going to be really good. He's got some of the best defensive instincts like I've seen out of a rookie in a long time, and he also like. I remember when we drafted him, a lot of knocks on him was because of his 3-point shot. Saw him in the summer league. That kid shot the leather off the ball. It was crazy. But yeah, I think that DeAnthony Melton loss. It's kind of a tough pill to swallow, to be honest with you. But I mean, we get younger. We have all of our first round picks still. That's the main thing that really surprised me when we traded Ryan Anderson is we didn't get rid of any of our first round picks, which is a big thing. So. I definitely think our biggest loss though was DeAnthony Melton. I was high on that kid. I think that it is honestly. I mean, you look at the Ariza and Ba Mute losses, but honestly, I really think that DeAnthony Melton was a steal of that draft. I really do. Just from what I've been watching in the summer league, I know that's like kind of early to tell, but you can sort of get that feeling about guys. You know what I mean? So I mean. DeAnthony Melton, it's funny, DeAnthony Melton just reminds me exactly of Avery Bradley. Like, exactly. He's like a clone of Avery Bradley. So, I think that's our biggest loss. I mean, we got Carmelo coming in. We'll get into that later. I'm a huge fan of Carmelo. But I honestly think that DeAnthony Melton loss was the biggest hit.
Yeah, I'll completely agree with you. I think it's easier to say Melton is the biggest loss because we don't know. Right? You could say, oh, if he becomes a superstar, it's absolutely the biggest loss, right? If he's a bust, it's like, well, shoot, they got a pretty good return for a bust and a slow white guy. I think as an easy, definite answer, Mute and Ariza losing them is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, John, I'm kind of on that same standpoint from you. Ayers, I don't know, kind of might be throwing that a little too far with Melton. Of course, he's still young in talent. We'll see how he can develop over the next few years. But I think we all agree on how everyone's already talking about grading us this offseason, how the Rockets are going to be. That biggest loss and impact has got to be Trevor Ariza. But, of course, I think we can all agree with he is a starter. He was our starter for the last couple of years. So he obviously had the most impact to the team right now. So losing him, Mute, is whatever people are also saying. But I think with the pieces and we've added this offseason, we've actually upgraded and our team's elevated to be able to compete next year. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Houston fan, but I actually think with the new pieces in the D'Antoni system, it's going to make us flourish more. Some player like Harden and Chris Paul still controlling the offense, barring injury, and if they can still be healthy, we'll be all right. So this offseason, we did I do think losing those key pieces like Ariza is going to hurt a little bit, but the additions are going to outweigh that for sure.
I know a lot of people aren't really too focused on the Onuaku trade at all, but at least we got a second-round pick for him. I was happy to see that, right? I think that's probably what you would get, but now I don't think he's even playing for the Mavericks anymore. I think they released him, and now he's going to Portland, I believe.
We sent cash to the Mavericks as well, too.
Yeah, we sent cash there as well. But yeah.
But that second round pick, I mean, hey, Morey operates in the second round very well. So
there you go, right? And so if you lose Melton, you have a shot at getting another guy that hopefully slips into the second round, right? Let's talk about what players are coming back from last year's team. You've got Chris Paul, you've got Joe Green, and you've got Clint Capella. I don't want to spend too much time on these because I know we all pretty much agree that Chris Paul's contract is humongous and a little too big. It's a 4-year, $159 million deal that pays him around $42 million in the last year at age 37.
Yeah, Chris Paul, I think we can agree he was the main piece we had to make sure we keep this season. Of course, you can say Capella for the future, making sure we re-sign him, but re-signing those two are going to be huge for the Rockets this offseason, which I'm really happy we did, especially Chris Paul. Now, like you said, John, the contract's overblown. It's probably a little bit more than we all wanted to, but I think the main concern behind that is just got to be his age, right? You know, talking about a 37-year-old, whatever, playing for 4-year contract for 159 million. We're talking about almost 40 million a year for Chris Paul. But when he's healthy, I think we can agree one of the best point guards in the league, been able to lead the league in assists in a number of years and steals from that defensive end, number one defensive all-team, plenty of years. So he's got it from the defensive end, and we want him healthy in the playoffs. That's the main concern. And so I think pacing him throughout this season and the next couple of years are going to be critical for sure. And that's why we have so much depth on the Rockets. So much like people like Brandon and I coming off the bench and Michael Carter-Williams to support our team and give Chris Paul that needed rest. So I think we'll be able to manage him well. I hope he can stay healthy. I really hope he does. But signing him was the number one concern, and he wanted a max contract. So the only way I think we're going to be able to keep him is if we're going to have to, pay a lot for him and get that max contract. So I'm happy we got him for sure. We'll see. I think we could agree 3 years would have been kind of, could have been a little more of a sweet spot for us, but we had to make sure we could lock him up and have him. So I'm happy overall that we got Chris Paul, even though we had to pay, that contract for him.
Yeah, you look at the Chris Paul return, you look at the Clint Capella turn, got him for less money than I would have thought, to be honest with you. 5 years, $90 million. That is huge for the Rockets. So having Clint Capella back, he's our motor. He runs up and down the floor, blocks shots, pick and roll, is a very unselfish player, plays his role very well. I think he's a top 5 center in the league, to be honest with you. So not too many people will disagree with me. But Clint Capella was huge. Gerald Green, just the fact that he's instant offense when he comes in. He can go in, can blow up for 30 at any point, to be honest with you. He can shoot it. So Gerald Green is no joke. We got him on a...
And you get him at such a low contract, too. Like, such a cheap contract, only $2.4 million. And that is a serviceable spark plug kind of player, right? Like you said, right? I mean, not 100% on Jamal Crawford's level, but can easily go for 30, 35 whenever you let him do it, or whenever you feel they're doing it.
Sparks coming off the bench. I mean, you got Eric Gordon and Gerald Green coming off the bench.
You got you kind of got what we wanted with Lou Williams and Eric Gordon a couple years ago, right? You have a twin-headed sixth man, and they're both just offensively, they're offensive sixth men kind of players, kind of like if you look at Isaiah Thomas when he was coming off the bench, or a Vinny Johnson kind of player that.
And then you see James Ennis, also another team-friendly contract, which I honestly believe he'll replace Ariza pretty well. We'll replace that defense. So we'll see how he does. I don't know if you guys saw any highlights in Miami, but that kid can jump out the gym too. So he brings athleticism. I think he brings an upside on defense. And then, whenever someone comes over to the Rockets, they improve the three-point shot. So, definitely I think this was a successful offseason. I know the Warriors brought in DeMarcus Cousins, but that still has a lot of questions to it. How DeMarcus is going to fit in, because, DeMarcus needs his, you know what I mean? He needs to have the ball in his hands. So we'll see how sort of that Warrior game plan is going to go when you put DeMarcus in, because will there be as much ball movement? We'll see. So there's a lot of questions with that. And then also what's overlooked is Capella guards Cousins very well also. If you've seen the matchups between the Rockets and the Pelicans, Capella was guarding Cousins very, very well. He knows how to guard him. So,
and I think Capella's a great contract to get for what he gives us, how instrumental he is, right? Look at the record that him, Harden, and Chris Paul had in the regular season. What they lose, 2 or 3 games, I think.
They were 31
at one
point.
I think it was 3. And they weren't defeated until past All-Star break last year, if I remember correctly, right? So that is a really good big 3, right? And you add Melo, who's all we really need him to do is score the ball, right? We got enough players that can play defense as long as he tries, right? You do want to see Gerald Green play a little bit more defense, considering his frame being 6'7", 6'8". You want to see him play better defense, right? But that's you just hope to get that out of him. But I don't think you really need. I don't even think you need Melo to play defense, and I think Clint gives them what they need as a rim protecting center and someone who can pick up on the defensive deficiencies of other players on that team right now.
Definitely a huge signing, and I'm really glad we got him signed for good money, honestly, too. He wanted to get paid a little more over $100 million for that kind of contract, but I'm glad we were able to negotiate and get him down to 5 years for $85 million, especially for the future of our team. Clint Capella is going to mean so much. I talked about the best signing we needed to get this year for Chris Paul, but that was more in terms of trying to compete for a championship, which of course I'm happy we had to do and secure him up, because a lot of us will say, especially if you're a Houston fan, that we're one popped hamstring away from being in the NBA Finals in that Game 6, and so having Chris Paul there, we had to get him. But Clint Capella, that signing is going to be the best for the future of the Houston Rockets. That big man, we can always debate him being the most improved player of the year last year and taking that step to, averaging a double-double, averaging about 14 and 10 last year. And he's just going to go up. He's just getting stronger every year, especially on the defensive end, which I think is overlooked a lot with him. His shot blocking potential and the way he's able to protect the rim so close and so many defenders and so many big men in the league nowadays. He's being able to rank amongst one of them. We're already talking about Clint Capella as being a top 5 center soon enough here, especially on the pick and roll and getting those oopsies, almost getting the most alley-oops every game now. And also, from the efficiency field goal percentage standing, he was up there last year with scoring the ball with his field goal percentage and taking good shots that way, because, like I said, he was so effective in that pick and roll scenario last year. So having him and having that athleticism, and especially from that defensive standpoint, being able to actually step out on the perimeter and guard some people. We saw that in the playoffs last year, guarding big men out there, and whenever he got switched out on some of the pick and rolls. So I think having him against DeMarcus Cousins this year, if you could almost foreshadow the matchup coming next May or June, I think will be a good matchup for, especially if we're going to be able to get that title next year, which we're all hoping for and want Houston to be able to pull out. But over the next few years in that 5-year, $85 million, great contract for Capella. Really excited for what he's going to be able to do. He was being compared to Hakeem Olajuwon when he first came in the league. He's so young still, so much talent, so much potential he can uphold. So I'm really happy we got Clint Capella re-signed this year.
Right. And then now I kind of want to move into the additions that we've added, right? We'll start with James Ennis, and then we'll go into everyone else. We'll start with James Ennis. What do you guys think of his contract, how friendly it is? What does he bring to the Rockets going into next season?
Well, I definitely just think he's going to bring in, obviously, the defense. We need 3-and-D guys. He's the definition of another 3-and-D guy. So those types of players fit in with our team. He's on another team-friendly deal. It's a 2-year, $3.4 million deal with the Rockets. So it's a low-risk, high-reward type deal. But just kind of looking at his highlights, looking at how he plays, I think he's going to come in here, and I think he's going to do really well. I think he's going to succeed. So I think that was a really good pickup. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I mean, we're just guessing right now, but from what I see, I think and listen, I mean, I put my full trust into Morey. I think he knows what he's doing. He knows what he sees. So I think that was a really good and underrated I look at this pickup as sort of like the Mbah Moute pickup, to be honest with you. Very underrated.
No one really thinks anything of it. I think another thing to mention is that his career averages are pretty similar. Like, they've stayed pretty stagnant, right? Which is usually thought as a bad thing, but you know what you're getting with him.
Yeah, you are. You definitely do. And so I think he's going to come in here. I think he's going to guard. I assume he's going to guard the best player on an opposing team. I mean, if you really well, you got PJ Tucker, but I mean, Ennis is lengthier than PJ, but PJ has more of that dog in him. But
I think PJ will probably take the more driving focused players, and then James Ennis is more probably the perimeter one.
Listen, we're also forgetting. I mean, Bruno Caboclo, however you say his last name.
Oh yeah, we'll get into Bruno a little bit later.
That's another player that, hey, you got to watch out. He just needs to, because he's got that length. So we'll see what happens with him. But yeah, James Ennis, I think he's going to be an instrumental part of the team. That's my prediction.
All right, and then yeah, you mentioned length heirs. Well, let's talk about Michael Carter-Williams, right? I'll take this one. You guys know I'm super up on this one. I mean, you look at his career averages, right? Let's look at his career averages. Career averages of 11 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, right? And 1.5 steals. And that's only in 27.5 minutes per game throughout his whole career, right? Now, last year, not too good. A lot of people have probably seen the video of him missing a bunch of layups. That went pretty viral. That was not a good look, right? So last year, he did average 5.3 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, and only 16 minutes of play. And I mention that because that's not a lot of time if you're also not really treated as like the main guard, right? You're backup to Kemba, and that's all you are. You are Kemba's backup, right? You're not really given your set of keys to the team, so to speak, right? So he's not getting a lot of playing time, and the playing time he is getting, he's still having to play relatively second fiddle, and he's not really used as an offensive piece. I think his length, his athleticism, because a lot of people don't think of him as a good athlete, but he is a solid athlete in the NBA. He hasn't had a bunch of injuries or had a bunch of surgeries either. Like, he's still a good player, and he's still relatively young. And I think if you really think about it, I think everyone is trying to beat the Warriors by being an entire team of shooters, and I don't think that's how you do it. If you look at their team, they're not all shooters. They're athletic, smart basketball players. And Michael Carter-Williams showed that his rookie year. He showed that throughout his career that he's a smart basketball player, right? His turnovers might not reflect him being like a Spurs level smart basketball player, but he is a smart basketball player, and so he can be successful on this team. And I think D'Antoni will empower him to be a better player. As for the Warriors, I think he is a great comparison to Shaun Livingston, and I believe this in the past that Shaun Livingston is so instrumental. He's almost like Andre Iguodala, how instrumental he is to the Warriors, and how important having a diversity of skill on that team is. Michael Carter-Williams gives you that, right? He doesn't need to be a three-point shooter, which he's not. He doesn't need to be an amazing floor general, which he's not. He needs to be an athletic, defensively disturbing guard who can guard the perimeter, move the ball, and be a slasher. That's all he has to do, and I think he's perfectly suited to do that. He can even have mid-range post-ups, right? Like Shaun Livingston, he is perfect for that. Yeah, I heard about it in an article a couple weeks ago that, like, with Bruno Caboclo, they were calling it his like last chance but best chance, and I think that's the same thing for Michael Carter-Williams. Yeah. So let's go into Carmelo Anthony. Right? Ayers will let you open up with this one.
Well, listen, I've been wanting Carmelo Anthony since he became a free agent in 2014 and he did a championship. But Carmelo's been one of my favorite players in the league. I love he could be one of the best scorers to ever step foot in the NBA. One of the greatest USA basketball players of all time. He's a 10-time All-Star. He is just incredible. So, I know he's on the decline. Had a tough time in Oklahoma City, which I kind of knew it. I mean, you see this consistency with playing with Russell Westbrook. You see players like Victor Oladipo. You see players like Enes Kanter. You see all these players that leave a Westbrook-led team and they go on and reach their full potential. And so I don't think Carmelo was reaching his full potential. And
yeah, he's one of those players who came into the league averaging 20 and hadn't averaged below 20 his entire career until being coached in Oklahoma City. And I mean, I've made this case before. I don't think Russell Westbrook is a championship player, and I don't think Billy Donovan is the coach well suited for the Thunder, considering how much talent they have. I don't think their coach has maybe it's just the way he wants to play. He doesn't have the style of play that unlocks their potential as much as, like, say, a Mike D'Antoni, right? Mike D'Antoni has defensive deficiencies. No one's going to disagree with that, but I think he gets the most out of his players, just like Steve Kerr, just like Popovich, just like Eric Spoelstra too at Miami.
It's not up to Melo standards, which we're used to seeing at least 20 a game from him, 20 per game. And here's the thing. I mean, a lot of people bring up, Carmelo's coming back to a D'Antoni-led team. Didn't work out before. But listen, this is a completely different situation. It's a lot cleaner of a situation. He can come in here and legit just be Carmelo Anthony. He could just be himself. He's got his best friends in Chris Paul. He's best friends with James Harden. They're already. I mean, they went to the Bahamas together. There's this great team chemistry that they got going on. But I really think this Olympic Melo that we like to see. I honestly think it's going to be unlocked with the Rockets this year. You're going to get He's going to get the most open shots that he's seen in a long time, let me tell you that much. He has two elite distributors in James Harden and Chris Paul. And, I am honestly predicting that he's going to have at least 20 points a game next year. I mean, he's going to be a starter. That might surprise a lot of people. But listen, this is a guy that was averaging 22 just a couple years ago. So he still has that talent. I'm really excited about what he's going to bring to the table, and I think this just makes us better. It makes us better. It's an addition. It's a legit addition, and he's a legit scorer still. So definitely excited and ecstatic to have him on the team.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you guys from the same standpoint on Billy Donovan leaving. I was kind of hurt, whatever. But that kind of reminds me of Billy Donovan being on the Thunder, and I really got to say my input on Carmelo and what I think that's going to be in the team. Just wanted to jump in real quick on Melo coming, from the Thunder. A lot of people said that Melo kind of had a bad year, but I'm under the impression, and I'm looking at the stats. You guys will say that Melo took a definite step back in OKC, which I'll agree with. But I still think if you look at his stats in OKC, he's taken the least amount of shots he ever took in his career, still able to average 16 points a game, being the third piece in that offense and not really get into a flow of what he wants to do in the game. And so, yeah, he's still going to be working off ball in the D'Antoni system, but I think he'll be able to get the most open shots he's had yet in his career, and we're going to run specific plays for him whenever in some sort of isolation post-ups to get him going in games, because he's going to be an important piece, and he's like best friends with Chris Paul, so they're always working out, doing these workout sessions here and there during the summer, and we see that on Lifetime Athletics, them getting in some good work, practicing that chemistry already. So I think Melo, I really love that addition to that piece, and like I said when I was talking about Trevor Ariza and losing him, the new additions we're bringing in, Melo's going to add that better offense, because Melo's always shot the three-point ball well, and they both shoot the three well, but I think Melo adds that extra point in the game to where he can really put the ball in the basket any way he wants to, whether that's driving, posting up, fadeaway, mid-range, and also from three for sure. In this D'Antoni system, he's going to get the most threes and open threes that he's had yet. And people say he's not that good with D'Antoni in the past, but really, him and D'Antoni, they had a really interesting relationship, because while things weren't working out, he was still able to run the team well with the points. He was still scoring a lot and doing the majority of the work for the Knicks, and they didn't have a lot of centerpieces around him to put him in, that kind of stuff. Like D'Antoni's system compared on the Knicks, and when you compare it to a team like the Houston Rockets now, with the way better shooters and the way better talent we have, it's just a completely different system for Carmelo to do well in. And so, like I said, with these extra shots, these extra points, I think Melo's going to really flourish right here in this system and have him really impact, do better, have better stats, better efficiency ratings than he did last year. And so that's really going to help us out from the offensive standpoint, to where we only had Ariza averaging 12 last season.
Yeah, I think y'all hit on the head. What do you guys? We'll cover just a little bit of this, and then Ayers, I want to go to you for the one after I'm about to talk about. So Marquise Chris, I think we all just agree, shot 33% in his rookie season, so he has an ability to shoot it. I think last year was not a good year for him shooting the three ball. Obviously, he only shot 28% in that year. I think that's the product of being on a bad team and not getting open looks. I don't think we got to debate that very much. He's an athletic. He can shoot threes, and he's going to get open looks like we talk about every single year with the Rockets. Whoever joins them gets more open looks from three than they have in their entire career. So I expect that percentage to go at least to 35, or at least get into the 30s again, and hopefully go. I see the ceiling at like 37. Right, but he'll go between 30 and 37, and he's not going to shoot too many of them. He'll probably shoot like maybe one or two a game, but it's still something that adds to your versatility, and he can also be an athletic big. Ayers, I really want to go to you for Isaiah Hartenstein. You're our dirty international scout over here. What do you think of Hartenstein?
Listen, Hartenstein, once again, I think he can bring in. I see a lot of comparisons between him and Donatas Motiejunas, to be honest. He's a left-handed player. He's a power forward. And he did really well in the summer league. So I mean, he's telling you, this kid, I'm really high on him. Obviously has more development to go. But I think he took some huge steps in summer league. He's also a lot more athletic than Donatas Motiejunas, so let's get that. But we've got guys. What I love about this Rockets team is how involved a lot of former players are. So you got guys like Hakeem Olajuwon who come in and coach up these guys, which is just incredible. And that's what you saw with Demo. Demo developed his post game because of Hakeem Olajuwon, and I think that is a real asset that the Rockets have with a lot of their bigs. And you've got John Lucas working with players. You see Capella's getting better every year with his free throw shooting. So I think Isaiah Hartenstein, he's got a lot of tools to be really good in the NBA. And I think at one point, he's going to be a pretty solid piece for this Rockets team. But yeah, once again, you got a lot of guys that help with development on the Rockets. I mean, we develop players. I mean, you look at Chandler Parsons, okay, Donatas Motiejunas. I know he's not in the league anymore, but at one point, you can honestly make a case that Demo was one of the best, like, back to the basket players. I mean, he was an excellent post scorer.
There's no doubt Rockets are developing players. I mean, have you seen that Just Bucket Sports video on how much Rockets do develop players?
Yeah, of course. So, and yeah, so I definitely think Isaiah is another one of those same type of players that I'm actually really excited about. He's on a great contract just to develop. Another one of those guys is Joe Chi. He gets, hey, Joe Chi, once again, if you put some more meat on his bones, I mean, this kid could be really, really good.
So you guys talked a lot about how the Rockets develop players. I think one thing to notice recently is that Bzdelik is no longer the defensive coach, and he was a big part in getting players' defensive potentials to reach their max. What do you guys think him retiring now, kind of out of nowhere too? How does that affect the Houston Rockets defense going forward?
It's a tough loss. I really liked Bzdelik, so that's a really tough pill to swallow. But that came out of right field, just came straight out of left field. So, but I think we do have who's the other assistant coach? Is it Roy Rogers? I forget his name. It's something Rogers, right? I'm sort of blanking on the name right now. But I know that D'Antoni came out and said that, like, hey, Jeff didn't leave us empty-handed. Like, we still have guys that know the defensive scheme. So although Jeff is gone, I still think we'll be able to take a lot of what he did and keep running with it. So I'm trying to find out I'm blanking on his name.
Now I'm looking it up around. Just keep talking. I'll find it for you right now.
But yeah, so I mean, I'm still not expecting to take a step back defensively. I really, I think we've got a lot of smart old players who already know the defense. So, like Chris Paul's leading that defense. So Chris Paul led defense is always going to be a pretty solid defense. And finally, we're seeing a lot better effort from James Harden, because honestly, everything with James Harden's like defensive discrepancies was all comes down to effort, really. And that's hard when Harden's has a lot of the offensive load on his shoulders. That's pretty difficult. I know when I was playing, like, it's hard to exert so much energy to both ends. It really is, especially when you're playing as much minutes, and especially when you have the load offensively that Harden has. But now we got Chris Paul, and so I think that only helps Harden.
Yeah, it is Roy Rogers, it's Brett Gunning, and it's also T.R. Dunn now with Bzdelik out. Let's talk a little bit about Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon doesn't have an extension yet, and it's kind of been talked about a little bit in reports. What do you guys think he's looking for in a contract? How long? How much money? What do you think he's looking for? What do you think we should pay him? When do you think that's going to get done?
Well, I mean, I don't have all the financials up on me with in terms of the salary situations with the Rockets. But I mean, Eric Gordon's a good player. He's a sixth man of the year. He's going to command a lot of money, to be honest with you. But once again, we don't know what Morey's up to, and this is the reason I think could. I mean, I'm not going to say, like, I'm not going to give any kind of prediction or anything, but like, you never know. I mean, you got Jimmy Butler, who's now wanting to get out of Minnesota. Jimmy Butler's also from Houston, and so. What other teams, with the Clippers and the Nets and the Knicks, what other teams can offer a player like Eric Gordon? Not a lot. I mean, this is a sixth man of the year. I mean, we've got pieces. If we really, really, really wanted to trade for Jimmy Butler, which is a little risky considering that it could be for a 1-year rental. But I think Eric, I can't, I don't know if I want to give a prediction on the amount he wants, but I'm just going to say it's going to be a lot of money. This is a sixth man of the year. It's going to be a lot of money. But I mean, thank gosh we've got Ryan Anderson off the books. This gives us a lot more flexibility. And we have an owner in Tillman Fertitta that's not afraid to go in the luxury tax. He's not afraid to get players paid to keep the roster intact, which is what I really appreciate. So we've got a great owner. I think it's one of these things where it's just sort of wait and see. To be honest with you, it's just a wait and see. But it does raise questions how Eric Gordon has not gotten an extension. So I think Morey is always a guy that's looking at trades, looking at all possible scenarios. I think it's one of those wait and see things. But Gordon's gonna get his money. He's still young. He's a young guy, and he's really revitalized his career with the Rockets. So it's impressive.
Awesome. Yeah, I completely agree. I think he's really important to the team. You're right. I mean, I think if you have a chance to get Jimmy Butler, right, local guy, defensive, offensive, he's a borderline superstar. You swing for it, you go get him, right? You can pair him, Harden, Paul, Melo. I don't know if Melo would probably be in that deal. I'm not sure. Capella. You got a starting five that is the closest thing to rivaling the Warriors starting five, right? I'm a big Jimmy Butler fan, one of my favorite players in the league. But yeah, I mean, I think Eric Gordon for right now. Eric Gordon's a hard guy to trade because of how important he is to the team and what he means to the team. Because I feel like he's so iconic now with his role with the Rockets, especially the past couple of years, just coming off that bench and being such an impactful player. Just the way he scores and his shooting and everything is so important to the team.
All right, yeah. Eric Gordon, probably won't end up getting traded or whatever. We're going to keep him going on. But that, kind of does touch up all these kind of additions and the people we've lost throughout the season and the offseason, how that's kind of recapped for the Rockets so far. Us talking about what we think the Rockets are going to do. We'll kind of save that for the next video coming up, because the preseason is just around the corner here with our first game coming on, Tuesday. So I'm really excited to see how the team goes out. We'll get to be able to dive into how we think our standings, how the Rockets are going to play out.
Yeah, listen, I'm my happiest when Rockets basketball is back. So I'm highly looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to media day. That's another thing. That's my favorite. I like seeing all the players in their gear and stuff. So it's an exciting time to be a Rockets fan right now. So I'm looking forward to the season. I'm looking forward to the ups and downs. I think it's gonna be a great one. So yeah, I'm thank gosh Rockets basketball is back. I'm excited.
Because we do have so much depth and added so much depth to our team. I love that Brandon Knight pickup, and I love making sure we have Carmelo in the starting lineup. So to have people like Brandon Knight, Marquise Chris, Michael Carter-Williams, James Ennis, all coming off the bench, new pieces, seeing how that works. Even with a bunch of injury, we'll be able to have those kind of players to keep the team competing at a very high level, competing for that top spot. I think in the West, again, we're coming forward. And this time, I think we have the Warriors, barring injury. Hopefully we'll be healthy. We'll be able to take them out this year and show that we can be the best team in the league winning this year for sure. So let's go Rockets, baby. H-Town.
All right, guys, so that's going to be our first collaborative discussion. We're going to do these every Sunday from now on. So next week we'll cover the training camps and what we expect going into next season, and then also maybe like a little prep for the Memphis game on Tuesday for the preseason. We'll go into that. So if you like the video, leave a like on the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave any comments you want us to answer next week or any comments you had on this video down in the comment section down below, and we will see y'all next time.